Hello and welcome to another speaker interview for the upcoming Book Direct show. In these interviews, we'll get to know our speakers, learning about their background and their career paths, their thoughts on the Book Direct movement and what they'll be teaching us at the upcoming conference. In today's, yes, it's daytime, speaker hot seat, I have a man who has worn and still wears a few hats, from hotels and restaurants to the Army National Guard, to co-founder of a property management company and a host of a podcast. Today, I am speaking with Wil Slickers, the host of Slick Talk and the co-founder of Staylux. Hello, Wil.
How are we doing, Deborah?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Just got back from a long day, so I'm excited.
Yeah? Have you got a glass of wine handy or a beer?
Maybe a beer or two.
Yeah, you thought you could hide that off screen. Last night I had a glass of red off screen. It's okay between us.
Well, cheers to that then.
Cheers. Well, you certainly have an interesting background. Can you fill us in on the details and tell us how you got started in the industry and what your journey looked like?
Of course, mine is very unorthodox, like many people in the short-term vacation rental world. But overall, hospitality has been in my blood from a big family, just loving people and loving to connect. It took me a while to figure that out. I had a failed chauffeur and event company. I started one in the town of Spokane, Washington in the US. But Uber really just started taking over too at that time. And so in order to pay the bills, I was working at a 4.5-star hotel and I found out I loved it. I connected with my guests, my team, everybody. And so I gave up on the entrepreneurial side of the chauffeur and event company and dove right in. And from there, rose above the ranks. And again, it was a Marriott property autograph collection, very unique, very high end. And I fell in love with just wearing a suit and tie every day and just the feeling it was. And so I wanted to experience what a boutique side would be, more independent, less branded. Of course, shifting into more direct, not depending on Marriott or other, affiliate programs to bring in guests. And so I moved to the Oregon coast, and there I had no friends, no family. And so I started the podcast because I had that little entrepreneurial itch that I was like, oh, I miss running a business, but at the end of the day, podcast was so new to me.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at other hotel podcasts and I couldn't find ones that I loved. I had a couple that I liked and would listen to. So I was like, I'll just create mine and see if maybe it can bring some value to somebody else in the same position. Well, we'll fast forward a little bit through a couple of properties and restaurants and to the position that I had before I went full-time into the show. I was a director of rooms and marketing. And so I kept getting podcast guests and all these things were going on with the podcast. And I was always so busy with work. And I was like, what do? I can't schedule them both all the time. So I took a little bit of a break. And still, even though I wasn't putting out episodes, I was still getting requests. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, I can cut back on my hours and put a little bit more time and effort. And from there, it showcased what it was. And it showed to be a very, I don't know, it was an exciting part of my life and the best decision I ever made. And so I decided, it was like, all right, this is going to go full time. And so that's how I met my business partners. And we also grew up in the same town, but we never met. We knew of each other. We've known each other our whole lives, but never really knew. So hooked up with them over about a year ago. And we started our company. We've been very quiet just because we've been building. And so I left my job, went full time with the podcast, and now we're getting ready to launch about 5 luxury big properties for the vacation rental space in the Great Pacific Northwest here in the United States.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. Wow.
Long story, but it's a little bit of a crazy journey.
No, that's right. So the podcast, I was going to ask you, why the medium of podcast? So podcast really was, after you moved, it was to keep you connected with everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was just educational, just learning so much. I had to learn certain terms all by myself, like ADR and RevPAR and all these certain things. And I was like, well, I want to be able to pass this down to, the excitement of it. I didn't know what I wanted to do all through high school. And hotels and hospitality opens up so many doors, and I just
Yeah.
don't think we hype it up as much as we should. And so that
Yeah.
was where I was like, oh, perfect, I can feel that.
And it's also really great to share knowledge too. Connect. I mean, the industry is so fragmented. To be able to
Yeah.
connect, learn from people, and share that with other people, that's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the common thing I get all the time is when I tell friends or family or new people that I meet, they say, how do you talk about hospitality all the time? Like, how can you launch one episode a week? And I was like, actually, if you dive into it, the conversation is always ongoing. You and I are going to have a conversation, and it's going to open up doors to multiple other conversations.
Yeah.
And that's how every podcast guest is. We have great one-liners or theologies or ideas or whatever, and it opens up so much.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's very ongoing.
Yeah. Your podcast started off with hotels, and it has moved into short-term rentals now too, right?
Correct. Yeah. When I was in the hotels, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, with both industries, there are extremes. You know, you've got the smaller boutique hotels, and you've got the huge chains. And with short-term rentals, you've got the people with 1 or 2 properties, and then you've got the people with thousands of properties. You've got the urban, you've got the leisure, you've got so much variation. So of course, you know, the conversation can go on and on. There's so much to learn, so much to know about.
Yeah. And I started helping my parents with their vacation rental and kind of was doing my hotel thing at the same time. So I was playing in both worlds and always have been, but knowing they have the same core value. And that's, of course, taking care of guests and creating a team experience and all these experiences, right? And so being able to learn from both, I think just makes it more valuable.
Yeah. Now, I just wanted to go back to the Army. Why the Army? Was that a cool thing that stuck, or is this why the Army?
I was 19, very undisciplined, very wild. Just needed that core, I think, structure. It gave me the attention to detail. It gave me that more just like honor and more self-confidence. I think I really needed that as a kid. I went through a lot growing up. Didn't start out in the best of shoes. I barely graduated high school, was, made a lot of poor choices. So I think that was just kind of me trying to wake myself up. And from there, the Army just really gave me everything I needed. And when I got out of basic and AIT and to my duty station and everything, it was like a new man. So from there, I don't think I would be, to be honest, doing what I'm doing today, because I wouldn't have the attention to detail and the ability to work hard at something. Yeah.
And you're still involved. So you're giving back. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. I'm currently in the National Guard. So for Washington State, we have been activated since April 6th. And so right now I'm in a hotel. We just moved hotels today. We are assisting a couple Indian tribes here in Washington test for COVID-19 and getting them up and running again. So that way their economy and their jobs and everybody else can kind of get back to work and be safe.
Wow, nice. Very nice. And so this year you co-founded, or you're about to launch, Stay Lux. Now, what made you get into property management?
So kind of going back, I helped my parents launch their properties. So there's very small, like 2-bedroom, 2-bath type properties. And so that was just really fun. We got to be really creative and connect with a lot of local people in the town and city that we were in. And so when I launched the podcast, I found out there's this great big luxury castle only 20 minutes away from where I grew up.
Oh,
and I was like, okay.
Castle. Yeah.
I know, right? And I was like, that's so cool. How did I not know about this place? And so I reached out to them. I was like, I'd love to have you on the show. Long and behold, getting them on the show, we found out we've known each other our whole lives, pretty much through mutual connections, and heard of each other, but never met. So once we started recording an episode, the conversation just kept going. Every day we were talking, texting, calling, and working on certain little projects. And it just became inevitable in a way, just because we were like, all right, this is what I'm weak at. This is what I'm strong at. This is what we can help you do, each other do. And so we we're like, okay, we want to bring on more, because my business partner, Emily, always had to turn away other properties. And they're, of course, big luxury. Our castle is 22,000 square feet on 5 acres. It's got a ballroom. It's got a game room, a poker room, a movie theater, 5 dining rooms. Yeah, it's crazy. So we wanted to do more. And so we realized teaming up, and we have a third partner named Carlin, and she helps with managing our day-to-day stuff. And of course I do software marketing. Emily helps with the investors. We all have a role. And
Yeah.
so once we decide to launch, we've launched it in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
just for legal purposes. We had to have, business on the books, but as more properties are finishing renovations and getting ready, we're almost about to launch about 4 more properties that are on that scale, 10,000 plus to
Yeah.
a 35,000, 37,000 square foot on 50 acres type deal. So yeah, it's going to be quite exciting. So
Very
that's kind of
niche.
the whole buildup of it.
Yeah, very niche market, that one. Wow. I didn't know
Yes.
you had properties like that in America. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And they're all in the Pacific Northwest. So it's very, I guess type of beachy and woodsy, but not city market. So we're, away from major cities, but still close enough that if you want to go as a guest, if you want to go visit, you could. So that's kind of our nice little staycation market where
yeah.
all the people that don't want to be stuck in the city go to.
I'll have to look at it. And so what was it that led you to the Book Direct movement? How did it come to your attention?
So this happened when I was working at a hotel in Seaside, Oregon. I was the director of rooms and marketing, and we were seeing a lot of our bookings were coming from booking.com, Airbnb, because we were one of the few condominium hotels that could actually allow Airbnb guests.
Mm-hmm.
And then just all these OTAs, and I was seeing how much we were paying in commissions because I did the books every month. So I had to make sure all our commissions and revenue was, correct. And it was just crazy to me to see that we were spending 200, 300,000 a year into OTA commissions.
Mm.
And so I was kind of upset. I was like, all right, we got to do better. How can I train my team in order to collect emails and phone numbers and do better things to get these guests in-house? We created a repeat guest discount and all these initiatives to really drive that back because we were losing so much. And again, they're great marketing resources, but I did not want to rely on them. Having a meeting with booking.com reps and Expedia reps every week compared to a once a month or every quarter, like other hotels, was not the idea I wanted. So I was saying we should do something about this in the United States. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
I Googled it, just was still pretty new into the industry though with the podcast and everything. And then fast forward, I went, through my vacation rental mastermind series on the show, met all these great people like Chris Mon and with iPrac and a few other people, and introduced me to Damian Sheridan. So once I heard about Damian, I got all excited and was like, this man I have to meet. He is all about direct books.
Yeah.
And so I just got super pumped, and we connected via LinkedIn a few times, and then met at the Shorties Award first time ever in person in London just a few months back. So that's how it kind of all started.
Yeah, it seems that from what I've heard, America is a little bit behind in the Book Direct movement. There seems to be a lot bigger and stronger in Europe.
Yeah.
But I was also going to say, last night I was speaking to Craig Webb, and he's also from hotels, and he also cottoned on to the Book Direct, movement, sensate feeling, because he was also looking at the numbers, and he was looking how much money was going to the OTAs, and how many property managers actually sit down and have a look at how much money they're sending off to the OTAs, over a year. They might be a bit shocked if they, have really had a drill down into how much is going and how much they could save. Yes.
Exactly. And especially when you look at your operations and it's a whole like revenue geek thing that I could go into, but at the end of the day, it comes out a lot.
A revenue geek. I like that.
Yeah.
So why do you think Book Direct movement came to be?
Well, I think it's been there for a while, but nobody's really fully recognized it. And I think it just took a couple people like Damian, yourself, and other industry leaders to really call it out the way it is. And of course, with recent events with COVID-19, on the property manager and vacation rental side, I think it woke up a lot of people. They don't have control when they're fully relying their booking or listing to be on an OTA. And then with cancellations and full refunds going out without them having any say, with mortgages to pay, with staff to pay, depending on some groups, that could be a massive hit. I know thankfully we were able to get a lot of our guests to rebook and kind of have like a credit. So that was nice. We were safe on that aspect. But when it comes to those who were like, no, I don't want to rebook, I don't want to have a credit, that's a lot of revenue that can go out the door in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, yes, we're taking care of the guests and creating experience, but we also have mouths to feed, bills to pay, and so at the end of the day, I think it's finally come to a big awakening, aha moment. I think it just, in all honesty, from the hotel side, I've talked to a couple owners and just kind of asked their opinions, like, why are we okay with this number of commission going out? And it says, well, it's how it's always been. For 20 plus years, we've been making deals like this, and they fill our rooms that we don't sell. And I think it's really become, over the years, just a not complacent. Yeah, but however you say the word, but
It's
a moment where
I think it actually slowly crept up on us. They were good,
Yeah.
they were good, and all of a sudden it's like, hang on a second, now I'm in a chokehold, and how did that happen?
Exactly.
I think it's been a slow and steady takeover almost.
Yeah. At first, it's kind of like a business deal where it's like, hey, you have 5 rooms left tonight, and it's midnight. I don't think you're going to sell them. Give me 10%, and I'll get them in. Awesome. Perfect. We filled the 5 rooms. But that was a good point. That was a good business handoff. And then it got to the point of, oh my gosh, we're making so much in commissions. I can do this to 20, 50, 100, 1,000 properties, while that one property only has the same amount of rooms that they have. That can't change. Your inventory can't change. And of course, you grow. And the OTAs had the power to grow because they have everybody's inventory. Without your inventory, they don't exist. So that's kind of where it took off.
Yeah. Now, there are a few definitions of a direct booking. What's yours? What are the features of a direct booking to you?
I'm going to be the cliche, cheesy hospitality provider and say anybody that remembers our name, anybody that thinks of us when they want to come back to Washington or Oregon or whatever, just because I believe 100% in the phrase or word I've been using lately is a destinationaire. We create remarkable destinations, and we make sure that people remember us through the experience they have, the feeling they have, the first impression, all things I've become obsessed over via guests being on the show and just growing from all the adventures that I've been on. I think anybody that remembers that, and so that comes in many ways: phone calls, emails, texts, website directly, Facebook, Instagram, anybody that literally comes to you from any of your social platforms, any of your brand, any of your memories that they've created with you. That is where a direct booking comes from in my head.
Okay, great. Now, what's one word you would use to describe the value of a direct booking? What's one word that sums up the benefit of that direct booking?
Invaluable.
Oh, very nice word. Yeah.
I'll say that for me, it's the moment you get a direct booking is the moment you have that person. It's your job to capture that and make that experience so unique, and to come back, whether they come through an OTA or direct. It's your job to make sure they keep coming back. So it's invaluable. Without it, I don't think we'd have a business.
Yeah. Now, at the Book Direct show, you're going to be talking about destination creation. Like I said, there's a difference between the American market and the European market. And I think the American market is well ahead of us in Europe. I'm Australian, but I'm European. In terms of destination marketplace marketing, so what's your presentation going to be about, and what are we going to learn from it?
Yeah, my presentation really has been just overall a development of what I've been learning the last few years. Obviously, I'm not a 20 plus year veteran, but really it's going to be the accumulation of creating that mindset of, okay, this is my property. Without this, the OTAs do not have income. And really it's just about flipping the script. It doesn't need to be a place in the Bahamas or the Caribbean or Hawaii or wherever that most people think destinations are. we all have a story. We all have a community that tells a story. And by marketing that and showing its uniqueness, I think we can really, really show that a destination doesn't matter by location. It's about what you make it. And
Mm,
so getting into that mindset and really adapting like every single aspect. If you think of your place as a destination, of course, I use our castle as an example because it's right between Seattle and the Canadian border. Nobody's heard of the town Arlington. Trust me, anybody around here is like, where the hell's that?
mhm.
Um, Unless they live there or been driving by, they don't know where it is. But they do know that the Greystone Castle is there, or they do know that this is there. Like they have remembered the certain memories or news heading or whatever that we've put out.
Yeah.
So it really is a mindset, and just getting into that every detail counts.
Mm, very good. Now, was there a job somewhere in your work history that taught you some skills or gave you some experiences that you brought into this industry with you? Any job from your youth or early years?
I would have to say it's like a combination of a job and just experiences. I came from a big family, so I'm the seventh child of seven. So I'm very much used to interacting with
The
people.
baby, the
Yeah,
spoiled baby.
yeah, exactly. And I have 5 sisters, so uh, imagine how spoiled I was, right?
I can imagine. I'm one of 5 girls as well.
Yes, exactly. So you probably understand.
If I'd had a brother, he would have been tortured.
I was tortured, but also spoiled. It was
Mhm.
like, it was like that good combination. So being around that, obviously I love people, just always been around big groups. And so that was a good experience. The military for sure.
Mm,
Like I said, attention to detail and just like the discipline that I needed.
yeah.
Um, and then I remember, so of course, like I said, love people so much. And I love being like entertaining. I love to just be in a group of people and make sure everyone's laughing, having a good time. And
Mhm.
when my first job ever, I wasn't thinking, oh, this is going to pay well or this is going to be really good on a resume. It
Mhm.
was literally like, this is going to be fun, and my friends and I are going to have a great laugh whenever they see me.
Yeah.
It was a sign flipper. I was literally flipping a sign for Little Caesars Pizza on the
Flipping
street.
a sign.
Yeah, so like on the street corner,
Yeah.
dancing with a sign, telling people to go get pizza, and that's what I did. I was, I think I was 15, barely 15,
Yeah.
and I put my music in, and I would dance, and I would flip that sign, and people would drive by honking horns at me and smiling,
I
and so I think it's just that, just making sure people knew, like, all right, that's the guy, or that's the pizza place, or
Yeah.
whatever. That's kind of been fun.
Yeah.
So
Well, my next question was going to be the most unusual job or a job that people will be shocked to hear about, but I think that one takes the cake. You've already answered that question.
yeah, I was gonna say that one, or like I cleaned horse stalls for a living for a little
Oh,
bit, and it was just
oh
I had
wow.
nothing else to do, so
Yeah.
cleaned horse stalls, and that was kind of interesting, but not as
It-
fun as
It's
flipping
different.
signs, obviously.
Yeah, that's a good one actually. I like that one. So, Will, to wrap up, can you give me 3 words that describe you?
Oh, this one's hard.
Guys seem to find this one hard.
I don't know why. I just think it's hard for, I don't know. I would say outgoing for sure. Um, Thoughtful,
Mhm.
and outgoing, thoughtful, and a good time. I don't know. That's not that's one word, but I just like to have fun. So
Having
I don't
fun.
know.
Okay.
Fun. There we go.
We'll put that in one word somehow. It's too early in the day for me, maybe, but yeah, like having fun. Okay,
Yeah.
that's lovely. Okay, now we could say goodbye now and wrap this up, or I have this new little segment where I can ask you a random question, completely optional, but everyone's accepted so far. Would you like the question, or should we say goodbye?
Let's do it. I don't want to break the streak.
No, you better not. Okay, so I have 35 questions. Can you, or 34? Can you pick a number between 1 and 34?
7.
7. Oh, a simple one. What's your favorite food?
Pasta. I love anything with pasta.
Oh,
I will eat
wow.
it every day, every meal of the week.
Oh my God. Are you Italian background?
No, but Irish?
Irish and pasta. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, wow, great.
Yeah.
And you knew the answer straight away. Didn't even have to think about that one.
I almost hesitated. I was gonna say steak,
Yeah.
but I eat more pasta than I eat steak, so for sure pasta.
Okay, that's fine. Well, thank you very much for your time, Will. Look forward to hearing all about destinations, and thank you again. And we'll speak to you very soon.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Will. Bye.
Bye.